Hi, I'm Paula. Welcome to your practice. This is a 60-minute practice that focuses on our feet and how we use our feet and how we can connect to the ground and create a really steady and open foundation in order to find some more space in the poses that we're going to do. So enjoy. Okay, cool. So we're going to start lying down on our backs with your knees bent and the soles of your feet on the floor. And just take a moment to arrive there and let your arms come out wide so you take up space and your collarbones can broaden. And you won't be able to see your feet here, so can you feel into your feet? Feel whether you think your toes are parallel, your feet are parallel, or if your toes are poking out or in. And see if just bring your attention down into your feet and straighten them up a little. And then just let your body softly land and arrive. Your eyes soften and close. And slowly just giving your weight to the ground here. And so our feet, they're constantly responding to the environment that is underneath them. And so as your feet are on the ground here, can you just notice what portions of your feet are in contact with the ground? And what part of your feet naturally rise away from the ground? Notice there's almost like an echo of the curves in our feet all the way up in our upper body too. So it's almost like our heels rest on the ground like our pelvis does. And then we have the curve of our arches, which is like the curve in our lumbar spine, our lower back. And then our foot pours back down into the ground under the ball of the foot, just like the back of the ribs and the shoulders. And then it gently lifts away from the ground at the tiny arches underneath the toes, just like the space at the back of the neck. And then we pour back into the ground in the toes, which gently mirrors the way that our skull rests to the ground. And so our body is full of these natural curves, surfaces that rest to the ground and surfaces that lift away from the ground. And so just take a few breaths here to notice. You find your weight in those surfaces that are in contact with the ground in order to find your weightlessness too, where you lift away from the ground. And then softly draw your knees in towards your chest. You can hug your arms around your shins and let your knees be pretty wide here so there's space for your ribs and your belly. And just take a really slow circle of your ankles out. And then a slow circle of your ankles in. And notice if habitually, we all have a rhythm that we move at. So notice if your automatic reaction is to move really fast, and see if you could just slow it down a little bit so you can feel, and we start to establish a connection with our feet and the lower portion of our body. Often we spend so much time in our head. Just wiggle your toes. And so it's nice to begin by bringing our attention right down into our foundations. And then from there, when you're ready to, just let your arms and legs float up to the sky. But you could do this two ways. You could kind of reach up to the sky, but instead just let your shoulders be heavy. Let your legs be heavy, your arms be heavy, so you can feel the weight of your limbs. You can feel your thigh bones descending down into your hip sockets, and your upper arm bones kind of sinking down into your shoulder sockets. And then again here, we're going to take a little circle of our wrists and our feet out. And finding that slightly slower movement so that you can feel what's happening. And then take those circles the other way too. Just gently waking up into the joints. Getting all the cracks out. And then you're going to shake your arms and your legs like a little bug. Shake, 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 shake. And you can really go for it here. So don't hold back. Shake, 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 shake. Good. And then gently hug your knees back into your chest. And you can either roll to the side or take your hands underneath your knees and just support yourself all the way up to seated. And when you get there, you're going to take your knees out wide and take your feet together. And this is going to seem maybe a little bit weird, but what I want you to try and do is interlace your toes. You know the way that we interlace our fingers, but what you're going to do is interlace your toes. And so, you know, if you're not used to doing this, which I admit most humans aren't used to doing this, this can feel really weird and even a little bit uncomfortable, but it's such a great way to find some space between our toes. And so there you are, you knot them up, interlace, and you want to have it so that you could lift up your feet and they just kind of stick together. And if that's not happening for you right now, that's okay, but just see if it can. And once you've got that to the best way that you can, you're going to slowly take your hands to your feet and press your thumbs into your arches. And then from there you can fold in any amounts. You can rest your forearms on your shins, drop your head. And if you like, you could take your hands forwards and rest your face, your forehead into the arches of your feet. And just notice the way that you're breathing here. Your breath be natural and nourishing. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be forced. Just receive your breath as it is. And with your back body rounded in this way, could you just imagine that as you breathe here, you're drawing your breath right up into the backs of your lungs, right into the back body, the space behind your heart. All the way down into your kidneys, right down into your lower back. And then softly from there, as you breathe in, let that peel you up and let your head be the very last thing to lift. So you're just slowly unfurling and bringing yourself all the way up. And then you can release your toesies and just wiggle them out. And then take your feet to the floor and bring your knees together. And then here, just one more connection here between your hands and your feet. And you could just rub the tops of your feet and your toes. And the feet get so ignored, right? We shove them into tiny little shoes or kind of funny shaped shoes. And so especially as we move from winter into spring, it's really nice to just give your feet some attention. Wake up from our foundation. And then just rest your forehead or your cheekbones to your knees and just take a couple of breaths here. Just giving your body an opportunity to get quiet. And seeing if you could just start to notice the sensations in your body. And you might notice the most obvious sensations first, like your clothes on your skin or the rise and fall of your breath. And you can start to notice some more subtle sensations and let that sensory experience pull you down into your body. And softly again uncurling, bringing yourself all the way up. You're going to bring your feet in really close now. Bring your hands behind you and roll up onto your toes. And you just want to scoot so that you can have your knees on the ground. Good. Now, make sure all of your toes tuck under. Sometimes the little toe kind of stays behind, so make sure you've got them there. And this can be a little uncomfortable for your feet if you're not used to opening them. So if it gets a little bit too intense, you can untuck your toes here. But if it's just uncomfortable, then keep it. And stay there for a few breaths. Find your toes. And then you're just going to rest your palms down onto your thighs and close your eyes. And just feel for a moment the weight of your foundations. So your pelvis, your legs, your feet. In response to that anchoring through your lower portion of your body, could you find some length and space in your spine? And then softly blinking your eyes open, let your arms just float out to the sides and all the way up overhead, as if they had no muscles, they're just levitating. When you get there, interlace your fingers and let your palms draw up towards the sky, and just take a little stretch side to side. And just notice if your ribs kind of pour forwards here a lot, and just let your ribs soften in. Feel the belly getting a little longer as you increase the space between your ribs and your pelvis. And then receive your next breath in there. And as you exhale, softly release your arms all the way down to the ground. Take your fingertips to the floor. You're going to press back onto your feet. Drop your head as you lift your sitting bones, and then wiggle your feet until they're about hip width apart. And just take a moment to look at your feet here. And a lot of us have a tendency to kind of collapse in the arches. And so it doesn't have to be too forced, but can you just feel like you're anchoring down through your big toe joints? So you're really heavy through your big toe joints and the four corners of your feet. But then imagine your inner ankles broadening away from each other so that your arches start to lift. And then let there be a little softness in your knees. Lift your sitting bones and broaden them, and then drop your head. Let your shoulders, I know it's highly illegal, but let your shoulders get really heavy. And then as your sitting bones lift and broaden, that frees up your tailbone to lift. And then just imagine your spine hanging down from your tailbone all the way down towards your skull. And with some softness in your knees, can you just start to pour your weight forwards into the balls of your feet and then back into your heels? So you just find a little sway or a little balancing. And then that rocking forward and back can get slower until it softly diminishes and you're just finding somewhere that feels like center to pause. Let your brain get heavy in the top of your skull. And imagine gravity could pour right down through your whole spine, right down into the ground. And then slowly pour your weight into your feet and start to draw your sitting bones down towards your heels as you curl through your spine, gently articulating one vertebra at a time to come all the way up to standing. And when you get there, let your shoulders soften down, your hands can be relaxed. Maybe your palms turn forwards gently and close your eyes. And so here you are standing on your feet. And I just want you to notice, where do you pour most of your weight when you're standing? Right? Some of us lean right back into our heels. Some of us are more forwards in our feet. And I just want you to notice, where do you naturally go? And see if you could just find a way of establishing a sense of broadening your foundation so your feet get wider, and then distributing your weight evenly through the four corners of your feet. So when we move into our standing poses and our feet are the foundation, it's so important to establish a clear foundation. It's like when you're building a house, right? You need a clear foundation, a safe foundation. And then softly from there, I just want you to open your eyes and peek down towards your feet. Lift up all 10 toes, spread them wide. And then lower down just your pinky toe, just your fourth toe, just your third toe, just your second toe, and then your big toe. Good. And then if that went pretty well, you're going to take it to the really advanced toe level. So you're going to root down through your big toe and your pinky toe and try and lift your 3 middle toes. And this is actually, it's pretty tricky. So if you're looking at your toes and they're just not doing anything, just imagine your 3 middle toes lifting. And bring your brain down into your toes. Good. And then relax your feet completely. Bring your feet together to touch. Your big toe joints touch. There's a little space between your ankles. And then softly pour your weight forwards into the balls of your feet and let your arms glide all the way up. And just feel how the minute we reduce the surface area, it becomes a little bit more of a precarious balance. And there's a little wiggle from side to side as your body seeks balance. And your muscles tend to kind of gather to the bone to find stability. But notice that you could kind of grip and get really rigid here, which will probably make you fall over a little bit more, and see if you could soften the outer layer of skin. And even though your gaze is softly placed on one point, can you have a sense of your peripheral vision too? Good, and then softly release your heels down and let your arms drape all the way down alongside your body. And then just one breath this time as you inhale, glide all the way up onto your tiptoes. Feel the wobbles. Feel your body finding balance. And then softly release your heels all the way down. Good, keep your feet on the floor. This time just your arms are going to float all the way up. And as you exhale, bend your knees, stick your butt back, chest forward, and just melt, like you're melting, like a little piece of chocolate in the sunshine. Melt, 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 melt. And then walk your hands forwards and walk your feet back and come into your downward facing dog. Now, your first few breaths here, just establish your foundations, right? So spread your fingers wide. Just have a little peek at your hands and check that your index fingers aren't collapsing in, and draw your index fingers forward. So there's a tiny little micro bend in your elbows, and you're supported and your shoulders broaden. And then with your feet, can you lift up onto your tiptoes, bend your knees, but lift your sitting bones high and drop your head. Now root forwards and down through your hands, and imagine you were going to draw your ribs back towards your thighs. And then keep that length through your spine, but slowly lengthen just one heel towards the floor, lengthening that leg and bending the other, and then just switch it up. It doesn't matter which one. Just one heel finds the ground, the other lifts. And then take that a couple times, just stretching into the calves a little bit. Good, and then come back to a neutral dog, and I'm going to just notice here, a lot of the times we kind of tend to shove our heels to the floor, and just look at the front of your ankles for this. So lift your heels a little bit. Notice if there's lots of wrinkles at the front of your ankles, and imagine there's a little spacious bubble here that you're trying to not burst. Okay, so you're trying to lose the wrinkles at the front of the ankle. And then let the knees be soft, and let your inner knees be as wide as your inner ankles. And then drop your head, drop your head. Good. Now next time you breathe in, let that carry you right up onto your tiptoes. And as you exhale, slowly articulate through your spine and pour all the way forwards into plank. All the way forwards. And when you get to plank, if it's a little much, if it's early, or if you're feeling like you want more support, take your knees down to the ground. But whichever version you choose, have a sense that as much as you root down, that rooting down helps to lift you up, right? So we could kind of hang in our joints here, but instead actively root down, and that's going to gather your front body up into your back body and keep the back of your neck really long. And then slowly release your knees down to the ground. Draw your shoulders forward slightly. Keep your toes tucked under and just reestablish that connection at your toes. You could kind of find the ground again there. And then slowly let your pelvis draw forwards. Keep your arms pretty straight and lengthen up through your chest. So it's kind of like a cobra, but your knees are on the ground and your legs are bent. And I just want you to feel the skin underneath your toes on the floor. So this pose really begins in our feet. And from that connection to the ground, that lifts us all the way up through the spine. Good. And then keep that. Just lengthen your right heel back so your right knee lifts off the ground. And then release that knee down. And then lengthen the other knee off the ground by reaching your left heel back. And then release it back down. And then instead of thinking lifting knees, think lengthen heels back, and both of your knees float off the ground. And you could take a little swing from side to side just to wake up into the wrists here. Good, and then lower your knees back down, untuck your toes, and like water, slowly ripple down forwards through the spine. Take your forehead towards the ground. Roll your pinky toes towards the ground so your inner thighs roll up towards the sky slightly. And then replant through your hands. Lift the heads of your shoulders, the back of the neck, and your head into a little cobra. Keep the skin at the back of your neck really long, and then press all the way back. Turn your toes under and lift up and back into your downward facing dog. Good. Now I want you to get really heavy through your left leg. So imagine you're growing roots down through your left foot, and through that heaviness of your left leg, that frees up your right leg, and it can just float up and back. And just notice if your hips are level or open, and for now, just keep your hips pretty level. So your frontal hip points both point towards the floor. And then just circle your right ankle out and in. Good. And then softly bring your knee towards your nose. Whole body is going to curl forwards. And then slowly step your right foot between your hands. And if you need to, you can pick up your foot and step it forwards. You're going to lower your back knee down to the ground. And then just play with lifting up onto your tiptoes of this front foot and then lowering down onto the heel. And then lifting tiptoes, and then lower the heel down. One more like that. Lift right up onto your tiptoes, and then lower your heel down. And then really root down through your feet. Draw your arms, let them flow forwards and up. Let your pelvis get heavy, but have a sense that you're drawing and containing the lower by lifting. So as you lower your pelvis, hug your thigh bones into your hip sockets. And then release your arms all the way back behind you. Take your hands down to the floor, lift your back knee. Draw your right leg back as if you were going to go into plank, but you're floating your right leg. And then you're going to cross your right leg way over your left leg. So your feet are far away from each other. Roll onto the pinky edge of your right foot and the big toe edge of your left foot. Root down through your left hand. Draw your left shoulder blade down your back and open your right arm forwards and up. Softly release all the way back down. Step into your plank pose and then bend your knees, lift your sitting bones and arc all the way back up into your downward facing dog. Exhale, curl forward through your spine. Pause in plank pose. Have that sense of gathering into your center. And then this time with or without your knees, but keep it really steady and controlled. So your elbows draw back and you softly find the floor. Good. Untuck your toes. Inhale into cobra. Broaden through your collarbones. Exhale, take it all the way back. Turn your toes under. From your sitting bones, lift up and back into downward facing dog. Now get really heavy through your right leg. Feel your right foot on the floor. And then let your left leg float as if there's just a little balloon attached to your left ankle. Keep your hips square. Circle your left ankle out. And in. And then receive a big full breath in. And as you exhale, start to round through your upper back as you curl forwards. As quietly as you can, step your left foot between your hands. You can pick up your foot and step it forward. And then softly lower your back knee down to the ground. Come up onto your fingertips and just lift your heel so you're just waking up this foot. And then lower the heel back down. And then gently lift. And then lower it back down. One more like that. Lift. And then lower it back down. Root down into your feet and into your legs and into your pelvis and let your arms float forwards and up. And as you exhale, circle your arms all the way back down to the ground. Hands find the floor, back knee lifts. Step back as if you're going to come into plank, but your left leg is going to hover. And then cross your left leg over your right. So your feet are quite far away from each other. Root down through your right hand, swivel onto the big toe edge of your left foot, pinky edge of your right foot, and let your left arm float forwards and up. So it's not the hugest back bend, it's just more side. And then just release that hand back down. Bring yourself into your plank. Bend your knees, lift your sitting bones, arc into your dog. And then as you exhale, curl forwards into your plank pose. Take a big breath in your plank. As you exhale, slowly lower down to chaturanga. Really slowly though, so take your time. If you need your knees on the ground, that's fine. When you're ready, then inhale into cobra. Little toes find the ground. And exhale, take it all the way back into your downward facing dog. Good. Take a walk with your hands back towards your feet. Take a moment to dangle over your legs. Draw up your head. Soften through your knees. And remember, your inner ankles are broadening and lifting. Your inner knees are as wide as your inner ankles. And your arches are lifted. Right? That's the support. The support of our feet comes from this lifted arch. Good. Gently wiggle your feet together to touch. Good. Come onto your fingertips. You're going to lift your heels and drop your knees as you lower your sitting bones down onto your heels. So your thigh bones are going to come parallel to the ground. Okay, and then you're going to play with your balance here. So you're going to walk your fingertips back, and maybe you keep your hands on the floor. Maybe it feels okay to walk your hands back even more until your spine starts to lengthen upwards. Hug your inner knees and your inner ankle bones towards each other, and then maybe you can float your hands onto your thighs. Okay, good. And then you can stay here, or slowly let your arms float all the way out and up. Interlace your fingers when you get there. Palms find the sky. Ribs lift away from pelvis. Belly gets long. Feel all of the wobbles as your body loses balance in order to find it and lose it, to find it and loses it to find it. And then gently release your arms all the way down to the ground. Now, you're going to lift your knees really, really high and come right up onto your tiptoes. So your feet might be talking to you right now because they're going to be a little bit... if they're sleepy, they're waking up right now. So hug it like a tiny little ball. Bring your forehead towards your knees. Feel this tiny, compact shape. And again, see if you could draw your breath right into the back surface of your body here. An easy breath. And then softly, you're going to draw your knees underneath your armpits, as if you were going to just brush your armpits with your knees all the way through. And then take your hands to the floor. Stay up on your tiptoes. You're going to slot your upper arm bones right back underneath your shins. So maybe a little bit differently from how you usually do crow, but you're going to be in this really smushed shape, okay? So it's like a little smushed crow. You're going to hug your elbows towards each other, and then don't worry about lifting your feet. I just want you to round through your back body and come right up onto your tiptoes if you can. Now, if that feels like challenging for you, then practice that a little bit. You can play with pouring your weight forwards into your hands and back into your feet. And if you're like, actually, I feel like I've got some strength here and some stability, you're going to draw forwards and pour your weight into your hands. If your weight is in your hands, your feet will just lift. But notice we're in a very smushed crow. We're not in a big, tall crow. Elbows are almost like chaturanga. In fact, arms are pretty much chaturanga. And feel all the wobbles. And then round through your back. Hug your feet to your butt. So now your hands become your feet, and all of those little wobbles that you've been feeling in your feet when you're balancing, guess what? Now you feel them in your hands. So your fingertips are active, rooting into the ground like your little brakes, and then softly release your toes all the way back down. Good. Slide your hands forwards, take your knees to the ground, untuck your toes, sit back into child's pose, rest your elbows to the ground. Rest your forehead to the ground and let your shoulder blades soften down your back so your arms are really heavy, and get a little rest here. Feel your heartbeat. The weight of your body gently yielding into the ground. The weight of your pelvis just gently descending over the backs of your heels. And then really gently, as if I was drawing you forward through the crown of your head, keep the back of your neck long and just slowly peel all the way forwards. Broaden your hands, turn your toes under, and from your sitting bones, lift up and back into your downward facing dog. Now get heavy through your left leg. Float your right leg all the way up. And then softly bring your knee towards your nose as you curl through your whole upper body. Step your right foot between your hands. You can use your hand to step your foot there. Lower your back knee down to the ground. Soften your arms forwards and all the way up. Then as you exhale, let your arms just drape all the way down behind you. From there, power up through your legs. Feel your feet on the floor and slowly lift your back knee off the floor. Reach your arms all the way up. And then turn your back heel down and in. Open your arms out into Warrior Two. Find your foundation. So build the pose from the ground up. Lift your back arch. Turn your back toes forward at an angle and lean into the pinky edge of your back foot. And then make sure you can see your big toe on the inside of your front knee. So your knee tracks right over your middle toes there. Good. And then keep your arms and your shoulders soft but awake. And then gently lengthen your front leg. Come into reverse triangle. Right arm lifts up, left hand finds your back thigh or knee. Now keep that. Slowly rebend your front knee, pour yourself into your warrior two. This time in your warrior two, lift up onto the ball of your front foot and see if your pelvis could soften down a little bit more. And just feel, the minute we change the foundation, something shifts in the pose, right? See if you could keep your spine really nice and long. And then lower your heel all the way back down. Re-lengthen your front leg, reach your right arm up, left hand to back thigh. And then this time, keep everything in your upper body. Just lift your front toes. So your right toes lift up to the sky. Root down through your right heel and then softly reach your right arm forwards, coming into triangle pose. But stay on the heel of your front foot. Reach your right arm forwards towards me and keep reaching. Reach, reach. And then take your hand down onto your shin. Slowly lower down through the pinky edge of your right foot all the way down to the ground. Lengthen your left arm up to the sky. Really easy in your neck. You can choose to look down to the ground or to the side or up, whatever's happy in your neck. And then as much as you press your hand down into your shin, press your shin up into your hand. So there's a connection there. Now lift up all 10 toes. Feel the four corners of your feet finding the ground and then relax your toes all the way back down. Softly circle your left arm all the way up overhead. Turn onto the ball of your back foot. Frame your front foot with your hands and then bend your front knee and step back into your downward facing dog. When you get there, root into your right foot this time. Float your left leg all the way up and back. As you exhale, draw your knee towards your nose and step your foot softly between your hands. Lower your back knee down to the ground. Arms float forwards and up. Circle them all the way around behind you and down towards your pelvis. As you relift your arms, send your back knee off the ground, lift and lengthen into crescent, and then turn your back heel down and in and open your arms out into warrior two. Take a moment to find your foundations, and then as you exhale, land into the pose. Soften your shoulders, your gaze is soft. Good. As you inhale, lengthen your front leg, come into reverse triangle, right hand, right leg, left arm reaches up and over. And as you exhale, come back into your warrior two. This time, lift your front heel off the ground and just feel the difference. Right? We change the foundation. Inevitably, that's going to shift what happens further up in the pose. And then slowly release your heel, lengthen through your front leg, reach your top arm up and over. This time, keep everything in the upper body and lift your left toes off the floor. Good, now slowly start to shift your pelvis towards the back wall. Reach your left arm forwards towards me, and then slowly find your way into Trikonasana with your toes lifted. Now through the pinky edge of your foot, slowly find the floor. Reach and lengthen through your spine. And then root down through your left hand and draw your shin bone up into your hand as you do that. And then clear long line from your bottom wrist to your top wrist and choose where to look so that your neck is relaxed. Good. Lift up all 10 toes. Find the corners of your feet. And then relax your toes back down. Good. Take another breath in. As you exhale, circle your top arm up and over your ear. Turn onto the ball of your back foot. Hands find the floor. Step back into downward facing dog. Take an inhale to lift your tiptoes. Exhale, curl forwards into plank pose. Take a big breath in once you get to plank. And as you exhale, slightly draw forwards and bend your elbows back as you lower into chaturanga. Now feel the skin of your toes on the floor, and from your toes, roll over them. Come forwards and up into upward facing dog. If that's a little bit much, cobra is cool too. And then roll over your toes again, all the way back into your downward facing dog. Heavy in your left foot, float your right leg all the way up. Exhale, bring your knee towards your nose, step your foot forwards between your hands. Turn your back heel down and in, windmill your arms into reverse warrior this time. Keep everything, just lift your front heel off the floor. Lower your heel back down. Keep everything in your upper body. Lengthen your front leg. Reach your right toes up. Shift your pelvis back to reach your right arm forwards, coming into Trikonasana, triangle. Right hand to right shin. Lift your left arm up. And then softly lower down through the pinky edge of your back foot. Take a big breath in. Good. From here, you're softly going to shuffle your weight forwards a little bit into your front foot. So take a little step in with your back foot. Find your hand to either a block or some books or the ground. Pour your weight forwards into your front foot. Might need to scoot back a little bit. And then softly peel your left hip on top of your right hip. Keep firming your right hip into its socket and come into your half moon pose. Now see if you could see your toes in your gaze there, your left toes, so your leg isn't hanging way back behind you. And then feel your right foot moving between pinky edge and big toe edge. Right? The pinky edge of our foot is our stability line, and the big toe edge is our movement line. And so this dance of our foot from side to side is what helps our body find balance. Keep a micro bend in your right knee and lift the arch of your right foot. Good. Maybe from here, float your right fingertips off the floor and come up a little bit more vertical. You might feel like you're going to fall over. That's okay. And then you can play with lifting onto the ball of your right foot. Slightly precarious balance. Doesn't have to look perfect. Lower that heel all the way back down. Square your hips to the floor. Take a big breath in. Lengthen through your spine. And then lower your left heel right behind your left ankle. Take a big breath in to lengthen halfway. And as you exhale, fold. Draw up your head. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the cheeks get heavy and kind of drape towards the ground. And then softly come up onto your fingertips. You're going to lift up onto your tiptoes and walk your hands to the left as you unswivel your feet, unswivel your legs until you're facing the back of your mat. Now from there, walk your hands forwards into your downward facing dog. And when you get there, root down into your right foot and let your left leg float up and back. Exhaling, bring your knee to your nose. Step your foot forwards between your hands. Lower your back knee down to the ground. Float your arms forwards and up as you breathe in. Exhale, circle your arms all the way back behind you. As you breathe in, reach and lengthen through your back leg. And then as you exhale, turn your back heel down and in. Inhale into reverse warrior. Stay there. Lift the heel of your front foot. Good. Lower the heel of your front foot. Lengthen your front leg long, and then lift the toes of your front foot. Start to shift your pelvis. Send your left fingertips forwards towards me. Root into the pinky edge of your right foot and find your triangle pose on your heel. Slowly lower down through the pinky edge of your front foot. Lengthen from bottom wrist to top wrist. Good. And then slowly from here, you're going to start to shuffle your weight forwards. Shuffle, shuffle. Pour your weight into your front foot. You might need to take a little step back, depending on how your space is at home. Take your left fingertips to the floor or a block, and then firming your left hip in, lengthen on up into your half moon. See if you could just see your toes, your right toes in your peripheral vision there. Keep a micro bend in your left knee and lift the arch of your left foot. Now, look at your left toes. If all of your knuckles are white, it probably means you're clinging on for dear life, and that might create some tension further up the pose. See, as much as you can you relax your toes? Good. And then start to pour more weight into your standing foot. Come up a little bit, so it doesn't need to look perfect. Who cares, okay? We're just playing with balance. So see if maybe you could lift onto the ball of your left foot. Feel everything shake. Good. Lower your heel back down. Square your hips to the floor. Fingertips to the ground. Take a breath in to lengthen. And as you exhale, lower your right foot behind your left. Take a breath in. And as you exhale, fold and draw up your head. Breathe into the backs of the legs. And just notice the difference now with having full surface of your foot rooting to the ground. And softly come up onto your fingertips, lift your gaze a little, and then lift up onto your tiptoes and walk your hands over to the right. Uncross your ankles as you draw forwards. Good. Now walk your hands forwards all the way into your downward facing dog. Lift up to your tiptoes, and as you exhale, curl forwards through your spine. Now stay in plank here. pause in plank. You're going to, from your toes, start to press the floor away as you draw your sternum forwards. Keep your arms pretty straight here and come into what looks like up dog, but you've got your toes tucked under. Good. Now from there, wiggle your toes back a little bit and then roll over your toes and come into upward facing dog. From there, roll all the way back, come into downward facing dog. Softly walk your hands back towards your feet. You're going to bring your feet together to touch. And then again, lift your heels, come up onto your tiptoes, bend your knees, sit your heels and your butt towards each other. Your arms are on the outsides of your knees and then curl into a tiny ball, rest your forehead to your knees. Here we are again. From here again, your knees are going to draw underneath your armpits. You're going to come into a slightly higher crow this time. Keep your knees up in your upper arms and then root down through your hands. Come right up onto your tiptoes. Now, I don't want you to think of lifting your feet. I want you to shift your weight from your feet into your hands. Use your fingertips as brakes. Round through your back body and gather your front body. And once your weight is in your hands, your feet can float. Right? If you keep your weight in your feet and you try kind of jumping into it, it's going to feel a lot more forced or effortful. And then if you're there, see if you could lengthen your arms a little bit. Good. Softly lower your toes all the way back down. Wiggle your feet until they're wider than your hips and sit down into a little crouch. Your heels can be off the floor for this, or your heels can be on the ground. You're going to take your arms forwards, palms face up, round through your spine, drop your head. Really nice soft version of Malasana. Notice how you're breathing. Soften your jaw. And then gently walk your hands all the way back. Take your hands behind you. Bring your feet forward a little and take your butt to the ground. Take the soles of your feet together. You're going to pick up your hips and carry your hips closer to your heels. Now press the pinky edges of your feet towards each other a lot and open your feet like a book so the soles of your feet are pointing up. And again, just use your thumbs to kind of open into the arches here. Good. And then you can interlace your fingers around your feet and let your feet close a little bit. Good, but keep that connection in the pinky edges of your feet. And then it doesn't really matter how high or how low your knees are here. It's really more about lengthening in your spine. So you create a little bit of traction by hanging onto your feet with your interlaced fingers, and then lengthen your arms and close your eyes and feel the length of your spine. Very slightly draw your chin towards your chest. The back of your neck be long. And again, can you just come back to that weightedness through your foundation, through your pelvis, your feet, your legs. And in response to that weight through your foundation, can you maybe find the contrast of some length and some lightness up through the spine? And then with your imagination or with your inner gaze, could you just bring your attention to your spine, from the base of your tailbone, all the way up to the base of your skull. And then all the way up to the crown of your head. Just imagine as you breathe that you could rinse your inner space or your inner axis with your breath. And you You can stay here for another couple of breaths, or if you like, you can fold forward any amount. So you could fold forward a little, and you could fold forward a little bit more. And just taking a moment now to get quiet and let your attention turn in. And if you folded forward, you can slowly bring yourself all the way back up. And you're going to bring your feet forwards to the ground. Good. Now bring your feet together. Good. Now draw your legs long. Now you're going to keep rooting down through your heels. Your heels are going to draw down. You're just going to lift your knees, but without moving your feet towards you. So your feet stay right where they are, and you just lift your knees. And that's going to help you to tilt your pelvis a little bit. Now from there, keep rooting down through your heels, lift your knees, and then reach your arms forwards and up. And you can almost feel like your ribs are going to lift up to walk down your thighs. And then softly from there, wiggle forwards and take your palms over the balls of your feet. Soften your neck. And you can stay here, or you can slowly start to press the balls of your feet forwards into your hands to lengthen your legs. And then as you breathe in, wiggle your ribs down your thighs a little more. And then with the feet here, we can actually get pretty specific. So your big toe joints are rooting towards each other and pressing forward. And the pinky edges of your feet draw back towards you. And spread your toes without like getting too rigid in the feet. So they look like little dead chicken feet. Really nice and awake without being rigid. And then you can stay here. You can be up a little higher if it's too much. Or you can fold all the way in. And just take a couple of breaths now. Right into the backs of the legs. And really just allowing it to be, not right at where your absolute limit of flexibility is, so that you give the tissues and the muscles some space to soften and lengthen in their own time. Sometimes if we rush, the tissues tend to kind of grip and hold in order to protect themselves. There's no rush. And then softly from there, you're going to let your in-breath carry you all the way back up. Take your hands underneath your knees. Imagine you had no leg muscles. You're just going to lift your knees up. And then again, wiggle your feet closer towards you. Let your hands slide down onto your feet just like we began. Forehead or cheekbones to your knees. And just take a moment to get quiet. Feel your feet on the ground. You may start to cultivate a sense of awareness through our foundations. It can really carry into the rest of our practice. And considering our feet are the part of us that carry us around all day long, worthy of some attention and loving care. And then softly unfurling all the way back up. I'm going to take your feet about hip width apart, scoot your pelvis forwards a little bit, and then softly using your elbows to support you, just come all the way back down to the ground. Lie yourself down. And this time wiggle the soles of your feet together and let your knees drop out to the sides. And you can, if it feels like it's kind of pulling on your inner groins, you can make fists with your hands and support your upper thigh bones right where they kind of move towards your butt there. Or you can take your arms out wide or rest your hands on your belly, or one hand on your heart, one on your belly. So anything at all with your arms. Just pick something. And so just let your weight pour into the ground here. Come back to that sense of noticing the surfaces of your body that are in contact with the ground. And imagine you could pour all the water or all the weight of your body into those surfaces. And then notice all of the portions of your body that naturally rise away from the ground. Feel our body's amazing ability to root and simultaneously be lifting and rising. This reciprocal relationship with the ground. And then very gently, no matter where your arms are, just gently draw your arms down alongside your body, and with your hands support your knees towards each other. Draw your knees back in towards your chest. Hug your arms around your legs. And just take a really gentle rock from side to side. And letting that motion just slow down until you find somewhere that feels like center to pause. And just take a moment to be still here and feel as if your back body could kind of broaden and open into the ground. The back of your skull be very heavy. And relax your face and specifically the space right between your eyebrows. And then gently bring your hands onto your kneecaps, like you're cupping your kneecaps with your fingers pointing down towards your feet. And then all you're going to do is narrow your knees a little bit so they're about hip width apart, and extend your arms. So your arms lengthen long, and then your legs are dangling, and just let your ankles and your shins and your toes completely relax. So you're kind of suspended in space. Feel the weight of your pelvis and the weight of your skull. And your spine lengthening between those 2 points with all its natural curves. And then when you feel ready, you're just going to release your hands and let your feet drop to the floor with a clunk, like all the way down. And then release your arms alongside your body. And then you can either, whatever's most comfortable for you, wiggle your feet out wide and let your knees drop towards each other, which is really comfortable for most of us. Or if you prefer, you could lengthen your legs out long for more traditional shavasana, and make sure that your limbs aren't really close. So take up some space, right? Take up space. Let your feet flop out to the sides. Let your arms draw out to the sides, and turn your palms to face up. And just take a moment to notice if your shoulders are kind of crunched into your ears, and just lengthen your shoulders away from your head so your neck is really spacious. Nothing too forced, just nice and gentle. And then once you're comfortable, see if you could just get very still now. In our busy lives, sometimes the most challenging part is to stop. That little bit of stillness or being close to the ground is so medicinal for our bodies and our nervous systems. Our bodies respond so well to the simplicity of just lying on the ground and being quiet, just breathing. So let your body be now. Let your breath be. And as much as you relax here, could you just keep the tiniest portion of your awareness in your experience, in your body? Like a quiet witnessing. And just bring your awareness down into your belly. Feel the rise and fall of your belly as you breathe. A gentle expansion of the inhalation and the soft descending of the exhalation. Filling up and the emptying out. And from your navel, from your belly, just pour your awareness right out through your whole body, right into your periphery, into your skin, the space right outside your skin. And then imagine gathering your awareness from your periphery right back to your center, right back to your navel. And bring your awareness to your feet and just feel your feet, feel your toes and the space between your toes. And you could give your toes a little wiggle. And then relax your feet and bring your awareness to your hands, your fingers, the space between your fingers. And you could give them a little wiggle too. And then relax your hands, and next time you receive an in-breath, draw right up into the tops and the sides and the bottoms of your lungs. Pause at the top, soak it up, and then exhale it out through your mouth. And then just let your breath be easeful and natural again, and softly reach your arms overhead and wiggle and stretch out and do whatever feels good. And as you exhale, just land and just do nothing. Breathing in, step your feet in. And breathing out, just roll like you're melting all the way over onto your right side, and support your head with your right arm. And bring your knees towards your chest so you're fully supported here. And just take a moment to drop your bones. Your belly soften completely. Let your head be very heavy. And see if you could keep your eyes closed. Support yourself with your left hand. Come all the way up to a comfortable seat, and any seat is fine, so whatever is comfortable for you. Just find somewhere where you can feel like your spine is free to lengthen. Maybe sitting up on a block or a pillow or bolster. And just rest your hands to your legs somewhere, maybe your knees or your thighs. Your shoulders be soft. Just coming back to that sense of anchoring down through your foundations. In response to that anchoring, the lightness and the length through your spine. The base of your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. Just take a moment to sit in your body. Your breath settle. And then gently bringing your hands to prayer in front of your heart and bowing head to heart. And the base of your thumbs to the space right between your eyebrows. Agya chakra, it's the seat of our intuition, third eye center. And a really simple gesture of gratitude. And we'll finish there. Namaskar. Thank you.